I apologize. This is a brand new studio here. This was a totally different layout than it was last week, so getting used to everything here. It is exciting. It's all shiny and stainless steel and new plastic smell. No, go ahead. It's radio. Who cares?
I'll put it there. My legs get tired.
I like the boots.
Thank you. I have the nicest boots on radio.
I see that. Do you dress it like a badass just all the time?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Wow. That's a way to go and do it.
Yeah.
Stephen Lang is here. Sir, it's an honor to talk to you. So many different things that you've been a part of for me growing up, and to what you're doing now, and to what you're trying to accomplish in the future. So much to get to. So let's figure out where to start here. I guess first let's talk about your current project, Don't Breathe, which I just got a chance to see. And wow, really weird take on a horror movie, where the bad guys at one point become sort of the good guys, and the good guy who wasn't looking for trouble with anybody all of a sudden became the bad guy.
Right.
And it was just because these bad guys broke into your house.
Yeah.
And then you just feel the whole shift. I'm like, wait, why am I rooting for these assholes that broke into your house to get out? I'm like, you should be kicking their ass.
I think the best way to say it is in song. There ain't no good guys. There ain't no bad guys. There's only you and me, and we just disagree.
That should be the trailer.
That just came to me.
It really. But see, go back for the DVD extras and just have them put that in there where you're just kind of humming it as you're walking through the house. You play a blind gentleman in this movie here. What's the whole prosthetic and the makeup and everything that they put on for you? What's covering your eyes while you're going through? Are you really blind, or can you actually see through a little bit as you're going through the scenes?
Well, the lenses, which are there to kind of do shattered corneas and irises, they're opaque to the point where they rob me of about 60% of my vision, and we were also working in pretty low light. So, look, if I needed to see, if I wanted to see, I could see. But it certainly made it simpler. It simplified things, but it also increased my the necessity and my responsibility to have a very intimate knowledge of the geography of that house,
right? Because
that's what the success of this film in part depends on, is my being able to negotiate my environment with efficiency and economy and absolute kind of certainty.
Did they have somebody specifically on set to kind of guide you on, like, this is not how a blind person would react or would act in this situation? Like, they would more inclined to do this because they heard something rather than a person who can see would react to a situation?
No, I don't think it's particularly helpful to have someone who is going to definitively, reduce behavior to what someone would or wouldn't do. The fact of the matter is, under certain conditions, anyone and everyone is capable of anything and everything. It was for us to discover. Certainly, it's up to me to do my research about being to convey in a really persuasive way blindness.
Right.
And also I had Fede Alvarez, our extremely gifted writer and director, there every step of the way, who was there to guide me and support me.
What was it like, even though you have all that on and you can see a little bit, what was it like when you're throwing stuff and taking swings with things like that? Did you have your eyes closed and just to try to get the feel of taking the shot, like, wow, that really felt like it had an impact because I didn't see what I was doing with it? Well,
I actually don't remember. I mean, we were the physical stuff. I think you're referring to all the there's a good bit of short, swift, nasty violence in the film. That was all we rehearsed it, we choreographed it, because we want things to read, to be ferocious and authentic and spontaneous. At the same time, I want my fellow actors to not walk away with a broken jaw. And even more than that, I don't want to walk away with a broken jaw.
Yeah.
So it's carefully constructed, and then when the director says action, you just have to take into account that adrenaline will also kick in at that point. So you have to, which is a good thing,
right?
Because it allows for happy accidents and hopefully not harmful ones.
Well, also while watching the movie, sometimes when I'm watching something, I try, and I don't know why, but I tend to try to put myself in that person's place. And as you're trying to do certain things in the house because you're blind, I was sitting there, and it falls back to the who you think is the good guy is the bad guy, and who's the bad guy is the good guy. That whole role reversal. I kept trying to put myself in your spot. Like when I'm watching you do some stuff and walking around, I'm just like, well, what if I was doing this and blind? I'm like, I could not get around as easy as you made it look. Like, because you came from the spot where the guy's been blind for a while and has practice and experience with doing this, but it's just, I guess it's a situation I'm not familiar with, and I tried to put myself in that spot and just to try to learn about it.
Here's the deal. One of the very first things I did was I went on the internet to start to acquaint myself. And one of the first things you see are blind men and women and boys and girls doing absolutely extraordinary things,
right?
Which completely puts it takes vulnerability, it takes disability out of the equation. You've got people skydiving and skiing and snorkeling and scuba diving and stuff. So obviously there's a lot of negatives to any kind of a perceived disability. But for me, for the very first thing for me to see was all this kind of people who move through their disabilities was a really valuable way to approach the part. And I realized right off the bat that my most intimate relationship in this film was with my house, and that I had to make it my business to really know the geography of that house in a very, very specific way, to know how many steps it was from kitchen to bathroom and from first floor to second floor, and how many rungs down on the ladder down to the fabled basement. If I could do that, I could do two things. I could establish mastery over the environment, which is really important, just in terms of thematically and in terms of the story. And also, in kind of a way, it helps to, for lack of a better word, sell the blindness by moving in straight lines with economy and with efficiency and with aggressive kind of shark-like speed.
Right.
It sells the blindness, and so that's how I approached it.
So you took a lot of extra time just sort of feeling things out in a way where.
Well, it's not extra time. It's all part of my job. I mean, it's what I got to do.
No, I'm saying from when you're not shooting stuff, you went and took it upon yourself to map things out in your own mind to sort of become like a muscle memory kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go on sets that were not being used, and I'd pace through them, and sometimes I'd do it without the lenses in, and then I'd graduate to putting the lenses in. So, yeah, I was always. I mean, I'm there to work, and so I'd always want to be as familiar with my environment as I could, as the blind man would be.
You play these great badass characters, and this will also become an iconic role because Don't Breathe is not like any other kind of is it a horror movie? Is it a terror movie? Like it covers a couple of different genres with this particular movie.
Yeah.
But you get to play these really unique roles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did they have you in mind for this, or was this something that you sought after? Like, you heard about this, and like, hey, I would like to give this a shot.
No, I think that I think Fede wrote the story. He had a picture of a blind man in mind, and I don't know. I mean, or what I've read is that he did not have an actor attached in his mind, and so I'm told when my name came up, things came into focus for him, and so I didn't seek the role. It was the script was sent to me with a request, if you'd like to do this part, this director would like you to do this part.
That's every actor's dream, where it's like, I could have auditioned, but they thought of me for the role, so they just like, yeah, come and do it, instead of having to
jump through the hoops.
Process. Yeah, jump through the
hoops. Which I'm more than prepared to do.
Right. Don't Breathe is out in theaters right now. You should definitely go and see it. I wanted to ask you also about a couple other things that you've worked on, because for those who don't know, I mean, you were in Tombstone, you were in Gods and Generals, Gettysburg, you worked with Steven Spielberg and Terra Nova on Fox, and that was a great show, but it only lasted one season or part of one season. Was it really because of it seemed expensive to produce? Was it mostly that, or was it just people weren't watching it? Or
I really don't know what the final truth of it is. I thought it was, and I said as much after they canceled. I thought it was really unwise, because I had no doubt that show was going to find traction.
Right.
I think it did take a little while to find its footing. But by the end of the 13, it was 13 episodes, and it really had found itself. I think, we were attempting to do a family drama, and what is a family drama these days?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not the same as Father Knows Best or Bonanza or whatever, or the Waltons. Families have changed, I think. And finally, we did find the dark tone, but by then, I don't know, whoever was making the decision over at the Fox network decided to pull the plug on it, and okay.
Because it was a great premise. I mean, the future was being destroyed, or was about to be destroyed. So in order to survive, they had to go back to the past. And it's kind of like it was almost Quantum Leap. You overshot it a little bit, and now you're stuck at that particular time period, and you had to start all over again. And I'm like, that's a great concept. Steven Spielberg's on a part of it, and usually everybody jumps to something that his name's a part of. And I remember watching it when it came out, and it just I guess it was just disappointing that it didn't go longer.
That one was a little shocking to me, because I had no doubt. I mean, look, when we shot it in Australia, and I remember I left a box of clothes, a good pair of cowboy boots there, because I had no. That was probably the kiss of death for the show. Me being presumptuous enough to actually leave some of my luggage there, knowing that I would be back. Well, I haven't been back since.
So it's probably still sitting there somewhere.
No, my driver has it. Wearing my boots.
Also, for people who aren't aware, of course, Avatar was a huge ordeal, and was at some points pretty close to having its box office reign knocked off, but it's still holding up.
It's holding up big time.
Holding up huge.
I mean, nobody's come close.
And then they signed not just for one more sequel, but for 4 sequels after that. And I know you're signed to the second one. Are you signed to 3 and 4 after that as well?
I'm signed to all of them, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
That's amazing. That's a huge franchise to be a part of.
Yeah. But and it's all the more shocking considering that I actually died.
I know, but it doesn't matter anymore. Like if you watched Avengers, right? Clark Gregg, who I forgot his agent's name, but he died in the movie, but he was back for the TV show when they put it on ABC.
Well, it's Clark Gregg.
Yeah, but I'm saying Clark you can't die. You can die, but dying's not final anymore.
Well, it's sci-fi.
Right. They always find a way to bring you back.
If the character takes hold, you're back. I mean, I think it would have been quite simple for Jim Cameron to not bring Colonel Quaritch back.
Right.
To introduce some other villain or however you want to characterize him, but he thinks a lot of Quaritch. He thinks he's a really interesting character, as do I.
Is it true? I read somewhere that with the announcement of at least the second movie, that when you were coming back, that you said, well, how are you bringing me back? And James said, I already told you. And apparently he told you a long time ago. You just forgot about the way he wanted to bring you back.
He mentioned it back in New Zealand back in 2007. He'd said, and what this tells you is that Jim had the epic kind of scoped out in his mind, sketched out to some extent.
Right.
And I think, but what I put it off, we'd probably had a really good day shooting, and I had, maybe I did well that day or something. And I figured I just put it down to him being kind of nice. But, you come to understand that's not who Jim is. He doesn't say anything lightly.
And he's a great I'll say colleague at this point to have, because any future projects, obviously with Avatar, but anything else he wants to do, he's one of those guys that is loyal to a group of people, and he always brings them back for different projects and things like that. So you're in the Cameron world. As long as you want to
I'm doing 4 more films with him in the Avatar series, so I think we'll leave it at that for the moment.
Okay. I mean, you never know. He's like, hey, I think you'll fit into an alien movie somewhere or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
One other thing before, and then we'll wrap this up here.
He actually did executive produce my own film Beyond Glory, which will be out on October 4th.
That was one of the last things I had here because I saw you doing the hashtag for Beyond Glory October 4th on iTunes.
On
right?
iTunes, yeah.
So
that's very different.
Let's do with this then with Beyond Glory. So this is a one-man play.
It's a solo tour de force performance, one actor, myself, that I've done about 500 times everywhere in the world, and I portray 8 Medal of Honor recipients from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, different wars, different services, and different ethnicities. And a couple of years ago, I've had great success with the show, both in legitimate theaters and with the military as well. And a couple of years ago, I decided to film it, and we ended up making a really interesting piece of cinema. It's a performance that's filmed in at least 15 or 20 different venues all over the world, all woven into what we hope is a seamless performance.
That's amazing. That's almost like a comedian who goes around and tapes their sets and then says, hey, I took all these different sets, pieced it together, and that's the album for that.
That probably would be the closest approximation to it in a way. And it's not easy to do because this is heavy-duty drama.
Well, also, I mean, just some of the technical aspects, right? Like, the noise of the room is always different no matter where you tape, the lighting, all that stuff.
Yeah, had a great director and he's a great editor as well, and a great team of people. And so, there were a lot of technical challenges, but what has emerged from it is really, really kicky, I think.
So it comes out October 4th. How much is it on iTunes? Do you know?
How much?
Yeah.
You mean to buy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You'll just have to wait for October 4th.
Make an offer.
Make an offer. So this is really a labor of love.
Yeah.
It's been for so long, and you still going to plan to keep doing it even though you've put out the final presentation?
I always joke that now that I've done the film, I can stop doing the play.
Right.
But I expect over the years I'll continue to do it because people like it, and I love taking it out to different parts of America and to the troops all over the world. And sure, I'll keep doing it. Not this year. I'm taking this year off.
A lot of people know you from movies, but you're no stranger to doing theater. You did a lot of stuff Broadway, off-Broadway, and around the world here. If you had the choice for the next, obviously the movies and stuff you have coming up, but if you had the choice for your next passion project, would it be TV? Would it be movie? Would it be back on the stage?
Well, that's hard to say. I know there are a couple of films I definitely would love to do. But I'm always looking, I know that at some point I'm going to get an incredible play, and I'm going to say, oh my God, I've got to do this. Because you kind of do, because you know it's involved, it's just, but I'm looking forward to that. But for a long time, the only play I've done is my own. And I've done that a good bit over the years, but I haven't done another work with on stage with other actors in anything other than readings here or there since 2006, I think. So I've just been doing this solo show, and when you do a solo show, the cast parties are just so boring.
But there's a lot of catering.
Yeah.
And an open bar, hopefully. Yeah. One of the things that I got to say that I really loved about you was right after Deadpool came out, you did this big social media thing where you were campaigning for the role of Cable, and you put out some photos that everyone was just like, holy crap, Stephen Lang is just so ripped. Like, you were like just the gym photos and everything, and petitioning. It's like, hey, I'd like to be Cable. And it just set off this whole whirlwind online of Stephen Lang should be Cable. And then all of a sudden other actors were hopping on board saying, I'd like to be Cable. Why does it have to be him? And then, a bunch of names were being thrown around. And at this point, nobody really has has been told that they have that role yet for the movie. I know they're getting close to finishing the script.
Right.
Are you hopeful for it? Do you think
I
this
think
will
it's
happen?
either going to be myself or Reese Witherspoon, probably. That's what I would think. Am I hopeful? I live in hope. We always live in perpetual hope, but I don't live in expectation. Put it that way.
So are you obviously familiar with the character?
Sure.
Right? Were you a big comic book reader?
Oh, when I was a young fella back in, I don't know if they call it the golden or the silver age, but in the 60s, yeah, believe me, I mean, from the late 50s through the end of the 60s, I was a total Marvel guy, although I read DC as well. I'd read Sugar and Spike, man. I read Archie. I love comic books. And then I sort of fell out of it. I fell away from the Marvel universe. I followed it kind of casually, but not with the same intensity I had when I was young. And but as this as Marvel as films become so centered on these superhero, on these comics, you start taking a good look at it again, re-entering that world, because it becomes a matter of your livelihood.
Because the boom.
The one I always wanted to do, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
The one I always wanted to do, I never got a chance. If I had to pick one, it would have been Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. Not so much Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
I loved Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. Well, I know they did them. They represented them in Captain America, I believe, the first one. But in any case, whatever.
No. We got to get you the Cable role.
I know. Well, you really got to get out there and campaign for it.
Believe me, I was one of the when you started tweeting out the photo and that you were petitioning for Cable, and the movie had just come out, and only for people who don't know the comics, Cable, good friend, and sometimes foe. Like, they have this weird love-hate relationship with Deadpool in the comic books, and the very end, the credit scene, where Deadpool's pretending to be Ferris Bueller and promoting his own sequel, which was ingenious because Fox hadn't said anything about even doing a sequel yet, and they just said, "Oh, we're going to do the sequel, and my buddy Cable's going to be around." And then you were the first person to jump online and say, "We got to do this." Myself, a bunch of friends were all like, "Where is the GoFundMe account? Where do we send our money to? How do we get this happen? Do we go to change.org? Do we file a petition? What?"
It's good if you just give me the cash. So
give the cash. Just Sam Cable.
It's not like I can't. I did one tweet. I said, let's lay some cable.
That's all it took.
I thought I was being witty, and then things took off, and now I'll retweet fan art if I think it's cool. If I don't look like a complete moron, and we'll see where it goes.
And you know what? In the style of what you did, J.K. Simmons put out a photo of him sort of doing the same pose in the gym, but he's Commissioner Gordon in the next Batman movie. And they put it out, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, is J.K. Simmons trying to be Cable?" And then he revealed, no, he's going to be Gordon. But that's sort of an homage to you, that he did the same thing that you did.
Well, J.K. he's pretty strack. He's looking real strong, and he's a great actor.
I have to say, the way you guys dress really hides it. Like, you guys dress so, in suits and so dapper looking, and then all of a sudden you see the gym photos, like, oh my God, this guy could easily kill me.
Let me just take my shirt off right now.
Please do. I'd love nothing more.
On that note,
your handler's waving no. Go see Don't Breathe. It's out right now. It's a very unique take on the horror terror genre. I think just go and see it. It's out in theaters right now.
Terrific movie.
Stephen Lang, thank you so much. Like I said, there's so many movies that I grew up watching with you in it, and of course the TV show Terra Nova. And then you also did video games too. You did Call of Duty Ghosts, I think.
Well, we'll talk about all of those things.
Thank you so much.
Another time.
Well, if you get Cable, I'm going to be so excited.
Yeah. Well, good.
Go see Don't Breathe and petition Marvel to make Stephen Lang Cable. Thank you so much, sir. I do appreciate your time.
Great to be here.